Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. And I'm joined here, as always, by the man who, much like this week being the Super Wildcard Weekend, he is the Super Podcast co-host, Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm honored with the title. Ready to go now. It's playoff time, baby.
Yeah, it's fun times. I'm uncharted territory for me. My team being in the playoffs, I don't know how to deal with this, but yeah. So we're gonna preview all 6 games. So this should work a little bit better. We can kind of get into these games a little bit more than we can when we have to cover 16. I think it should be a lot of fun, and we're gonna change the format for this as well. So if you've been following along, you know that I've been killing it. I mean, I'm just doing incredible, Kyle.
We had the perfect week last week. Unfortunately, I picked the Vikings to cover their spread. They did not because of a late touchdown and then them not going for the touchdown at the 9-yard line. But I'm still in it. There's anyone can win this.
Yes, I think that it's not a perfect week. Maybe it's like a sort of like a no-hitter. It's like a no-misser, not quite a perfect week.
That's fair. Yeah, we were almost there.
Almost there. Yes. So obviously this is lowest score wins. And the way that we're going to do it this time is there's 6 games. We're each going to pick all of them instead of only picking half of them. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to have we have 12 points to put on the games. We have to put at least 1 point on each game, but you can put more points on the games that you feel more confident can go well. So there's kind of a betting system that'll also let you see how confident we are in these games. So without further ado, I think let's just get into it. And let's start with the first game of the week, Colts-Bills. I want to start with that one. It's a 6.5 point spread. And the way I think we should do this is we'll both just say, who we have winning, how many points we have, and then we'll get further into it. And since I'm in first, I should go first. So that way you can maybe make some decisions if you have to, since we're running out of games left. You might have to, whoever's in last might have to, at a certain point, pick against the winner. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Let's go ahead.
Okay. So I have, you know what? Sometimes in these picks, you got to take some chances. And I think there is massive upset potential in this one. I made a video talking about that. As the great Winston Churchill once said, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It takes courage to continue. That counts. Well, I'm going to have courage here. I am picking the Indianapolis Colts to win this football game by 1 point. Kyle, go ahead and give your take, and then I'll explain why.
All right. So I got the Bills and I have 3 points down for my confidence meter.
Okay.
There are some things that concern me. So the first part I'm concerned about is there's a lot of hype on Buffalo. Maybe is there too much hype? Maybe. But at the same time, I'm going with Buffalo because I just think there's too much juice on this team. I feel like this team, it was the second team in NFL history to have 20 or more first downs in every game during the regular season. I mean, that's just absurd. I feel like there's too many weapons. As much as I like this Colts defense, I just feel like, I think when the Bills put 5 people out there and it's, they have Beasley, they have Davis, they have Diggs, they have Dawson Knox spread out wide, and it's basically Josh Allen in the backfield. Like, I don't know any defense that can really stop that right now. It's just too good, and I think it's just too explosive in an offense. I think the Colts might be able to get a turnover, maybe 2, but at the same time, if this game gets to, upper 20s, low 30s, I don't see the Colts keeping up.
So I'll explain, because there's definitely people in the chat that are saying, Jackson, what the hell are you thinking? Chicago Bears fan just says not happening. The great Moochie Studio, there's too much juice. Here's why I think that this is going to work. So let's start with the Bills offense against the Colts defense, and then we can flip to the other side. I just think this is a matchup nightmare for this. Where I think that for the Colts, what they love to do is they like to play. I mean, they switch their coverages around, but what the Colts do is they do play a lot of cover two zone, and they play a lot of two safeties deep, which I went back and I watched that Miami game against Buffalo, and I first saw it and I was thinking, wow, Miami's playing cover two zone and Buffalo was still able to tear them apart. Well, they weren't really. If you go back and watch that, the beginning was one Miami was playing a lot of zone coverage, cover two, and the Bills struggled then, but the Bills were able to sort of dink and dunk down the field and score some. So then Miami went away from that, but that's when it really just fell apart and got off the rails. So I think that's what Indianapolis is going to do. I don't think they're going to completely shut down this team, but I do think that I have the Bills scoring 27 in this one. I believe I said it was going to be a 10-possession game. So, that's a good day. That's not an incredible day. And I think Indianapolis can do that. And also, to your point about interceptions, I feel like there's a better chance Allen turns the ball over multiple times than he doesn't turn it over at all. With the two safeties deep, there's going to be a lot more plays to get the ball down to field. And I also think that, with two safeties deep, takes more time to get down the field. And Josh Allen has been known to sometimes panic and sometimes make mistakes. He's been great this season. That's the one area he struggled. He still does turn the ball over. And so that's what I'm going to go with. So I think that the Colts will be able to slow down this offense, although I do think the offense will score around 27.
Yeah, and then you look at the Colts offense against the Bills defense, because this was a matchup I was thinking about and I was a little concerned on. Because the one thing that we have talked about with this this Bills defense, the one area where it struggles sometimes is it struggles to stop the run at times. I think it's a much better pass defense. I was honestly pretty shocked to see Jonathan Taylor finish third in the league in rushing.
Yeah.
And I just feel like while this Colts defense can disappear for what feels like, possessions at a time, even quarters at a time, I think this Colts offense is at its best when Taylor's running the ball, getting, 3, 4, 5 yards of carry. And then when Nyheim Hines is, catching balls out of the backfield, breaking a 20-yard run here and there, and just kind of doing things, I feel like that's when this offense is at the best. And I feel like the Colts are going to be able to do that against this Bills team, which I still am going back to, yeah, but how are they stopping the Bills, and how are they going to be able to keep up with this team? This team's been lights out the last 4 weeks of the season, and with the way this offense is played, I don't see it slowing down right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I go back. I think this is a good. I think it's maybe not stopped, but I think this is they're going to just make Buffalo have to work to get their points. I'd be very surprised if we see more than one big reception down the field.
Yeah,
and I mean 30 plus yards, not like 20 yards, but yeah, I think that's the key way. And like you said, on defense, the Bills have struggled in stopping the run, and I think Buffalo is at their best when they can play man coverage on defense. And Indianapolis is the kind of team that they force you into zone because they run the ball well enough. They force you into zone. And Frank Reich, his scheme can pick apart zone. And honestly, I think T.Y. Hilton's a good zone receiver. And I think Phillip Rivers is a great zone quarterback. So I think it's a matchup thing. And Buffalo, they want to play man. They don't want to play zone. So I just think that this is a perfect matchup for Indianapolis. I have the final score: Colts 28, Bills 27. The Bills also don't have a great red zone defense, so that factors in as well. I think it'll be a one possession game. I could see it going either way, so that's why I'm only putting 1 point on it. And I just figured, hey, if I'm this close, might as well give it to the underdog and have some fun with it.
Yeah, no, I think it could be a competitive game. The way I kind of saw this game going was maybe the Colts come out with a great game plan on defense early on. They frustrate the Bills, and I could see it being like 10-7 Colts at half. Everyone's asking a bunch of questions. And then I could see Brian Daboll sitting down with Josh Allen, figuring things out in the locker room, and then they come out and kind of blitz them, and it's like a 30. I had 31-20 down, and I think that's where they could really turn it around and get some points in the second half. I could see the Colts coming out and kind of surprising them and punching them in the mouth early, but I do think that they could flip it around.
Yeah, I mean, no, I get what you're saying. I think that that's logical. Like, I can definitely see the logic behind that of this being kind of a close first half and then the Buffalo Bills finding a way. But I do think that for Indianapolis, one other factor I want to bring up is I can see this team limiting possessions, and that obviously helps the underdog because less possessions, the more talented team struggles more. And I think Indianapolis could wait till 5 seconds left on the play clock before snapping the ball. I think that's something they probably will implement here.
Yeah. No, it's definitely going to be a great matchup. I don't know. Like I'm just concerned that like because even when I was thinking, oh, maybe the Colts upset this one, I'm just concerned. I'm looking up in the second quarter and it's like, oh, the Colts have had 12 yards on their last four possessions, and
Right.
then pretty much, I could see that happening too because I just think that this is what this offense has done at points. It looked, and not to mention, we talked about Allen turning the ball over. Philip Rivers did not leave a great taste in a lot of people's mouth these last 2 weeks of the season. I thought he was great for a lot of the season, but I thought the last 2 weeks he really regressed back to some old Philip Rivers habits, and we'll have to see if he's able to bounce back and play like midseason Philip Rivers.
Yeah, no, I mean that's totally a fair thing, and I think an interesting X factor is which Philip Rivers are we going to get, because we've seen multiple Philip Riverses throughout the course of this season. What's the plural for Rivers? Is Rivers the plural for Rivers?
I think so. Rivers apostrophe S.
Well, it would just be apostrophe, no S at the end.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, come on, good Kyle, get your grammar together.
I'm sorry, man.
Well, yeah, I think that yeah, the Rivers thing is definitely interesting, and I do feel like it's possible to throw it away. But I just feel like this is the kind of game where I think that you look at like the Stars, and Buffalo looks clearly better, but you look at, I think Buffalo has Indianapolis has a better shot in the trenches, and I think that's where I could see it happening. It's one of those things where what Indianapolis has going for them isn't necessarily the stuff that the national media is going to talk about. But you're absolutely right that there's a very real chance I'm going to say all this, and then I look up, and in the fourth quarter, it's like 38-20.
Yeah. No, I do think that's a possibility just because I do think the Bills can put points on you in a hurry. And not to mention, as I said with the Colts, they can give the ball back to you in a hurry. They're not necessarily the best moving offense at times. I do think, some people have brought it up in the chat, and I do think it's a good point. The Colts definitely have advantage at the line of scrimmage on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be interesting how much that can make an impact, or if the Bills just speed and athleticism is able to win this one out.
Yeah, it's interesting. One other thing I want to bring up is that I think that, Buffalo does like the blitz. They're pretty good at blitzing. Indianapolis is good at picking up blitzes. So that's interesting to look at, great versus great. And I think that could also factor in. So it should be, I think it's going to be an underratedly good game. I think this is the one I'm really looking forward to seeing how it happens. And I think if Buffalo can get by this matchup, the sky is the limit. And the Lombardi Trophy is the limit for this team. They're really that good. I just think it's a bad matchup.
Yeah. No, I do think that they can make it that far. I think that they're the best competitor to Kansas City right now, in the AFC at least. But yeah, I mean, like we were kind of saying, it could end up that there's 2 interceptions from Allen in the first half, and all of a sudden we're asking questions about him again. And it's not an indictment on Allen this season. He's been terrific, but this Colts defense gets turnovers, man. I said it last week. This team just finds ways to get the ball back.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And also Quentin Nelson, give him everyone, he had that great rookie season. Everyone's forgot about him. And I love his number, 56. Great guard number.
All right. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. I always love those weird numbers. I don't know what it is, but it works when you're a great player. It doesn't work when you're a bad player.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a good example of this. I don't really have anything for you, though. I'm
And
sorry.
Nick Kwiatkowski's 44. That's a fun one.
Is it?
I think so. All right. Well, maybe not. I guess we'll move
What
on.
do you see in the similarities between 56 and 44?
44 for a linebacker. Who else has 44? Name one other linebacker that wears 44.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Devin White has 45. That's as close as you're getting.
That's true, but that's like a solid number. All right, let's move on. No one cares about numbers. Let's just get off this. Any final thoughts on this game?
No, I think we just about covered everything. I think the matchup, like you said, is interesting. I think a lot of people are counting out the Colts pretty quickly, but I do think it's going to be closer than they think. And, I think they'll be surprised in the first half to see the score.
Yeah, I think so as well. That's one of those that I think maybe people will say, we'll go to lunch this day. This game shouldn't be that good. Then it could be close. All right, let's talk about, I see a lot of talk in the chat about Browns Steelers. So let's go there. This one should be interesting. I remember last podcast, you said that you think that a lot of people are predicting Pittsburgh to just run away with it. You don't really see it that way. I do see it that way. I think Pittsburgh has a great chance. I'm putting a lot of eggs in this basket. I'm going to give Pittsburgh 4 points here. That's what I'm going with. How much are you giving?
I'm giving them 2. So just clarification, I said that like 2 weeks ago. And a lot has changed in Cleveland since 2 weeks ago. Namely that,
No, I
you
think
know,
you said it last week. You said it on the last podcast.
did I? Oh,
Yeah, at the end
well,
because
even on the
yeah.
last podcast, a lot's changed since then too.
Right. Yeah.
So I just think that, I think Pittsburgh has plenty of questions. So I think that's fair. I like a lot of the Browns team, but I don't think, I think not only losing your head coach is important, losing your play caller is really
Right.
important too.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think the special thing about Cleveland this year was how they've been able to work Stefanski and how he's kind of unlocked Baker while also having these 2,000-yard rushers at his disposal and doing all this together. And I felt like one of the reasons why I love the hire and why I think he's the coach of the year is because I loved exactly what he did at Minnesota in the game plan. And I love that he pretty much translated right over to Cleveland. I've been saying this all offseason of how much I think that works and how much that translates. And it's pretty much worked to perfection. You remove that from your equation. I just think that's too much to overcome. I think he's an influential head coach, especially, like I said, because he makes so many of those play calls. I just don't see it happening without him out there. I think Steelers get their guys back from last week with the defense. They were resting. And although I don't love the Steelers offense, I think that if Ben makes 10 throws, I think they're fine because I just don't know how much Cleveland's going to be able to move the ball in this one.
Yeah, well, yeah. So obviously the head coaching thing is huge. I actually think that there is a clear matchup that I love for Pittsburgh, which is their receivers against the Cleveland secondary. I think that that's going to be a huge matchup. Say what you want about Big Ben. Mason Rudolph was able to do a decent job. I think Ben will do a better job. I think that they will be able to get some chunk plays. The issue is going to be when you need like a yard. That's been their issue all season, and I do think that I could see Cleveland doing a decent job. But for Pittsburgh, they kind of have the mindset of, hey, we'll have a tight end block. We'll have a halfback block. We'll, chip Myles Garrett all day long and then just throw the ball deep to Chase Claypool. They need Denzel Ward back. That's something that you mentioned last podcast as well, is this is a different team with Ward. And if Ward's on Claypool, they stand a chance. But Claypool just had I thought maybe his best day, not statistically, but just the way he was able to consistently win his matchups. It's an issue for Cleveland. And again, my final score for this, I first had it at 20-28, but then when the Stefanski news came out, I gave it 17-28. I'm going to give that a 3-point swing. I just think that this is it's an offense that has its flaws for Pittsburgh, but it's a defense that has more. And for Cleveland, you're playing with house money, right? Because you already have so many injuries. Now you don't have your head coach. If you lose, no one's going to say anything. But if you win, I mean, this is biggest Browns win since they, got stolen and went to Baltimore.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 27-13 Pittsburgh. Like, I just think it's too much without him. I think it's going to be a 2-score game. I could see them getting up and coasting in this one just because, I like I said, I think that's too much. And, they're still not sure if Denzel Ward's going to be able to play. And, like you said, that's important because he's the best player on a not very good secondary, that I think it's important to have him out there. And we've seen what happens when just last week when the Steelers wide receivers go up against Robert Jackson. I think that's a terrible matchup. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know the path really for the Browns winning this. Unless like Myles Garrett makes like 2 or 3 insane plays.
Yeah, I think the path is, again, get turnovers. I think that's what they're going to have to do, and I think their secondary should play aggressive. They did get a turnover. Mason Rudolph threw an interception. It was one of those where it's like, that was a dumb throw, but then I remember, okay, well, Roethlisberger makes dumb throws, so maybe you can get that to go. That's got to be part of the hope, I think. I think really for Cleveland, it's kind of a similar thing I said with Indianapolis, except Cleveland's not as good at it, is just play cover 2 zone a lot and just keep things in front of you. Don't get beat deep and hope that you can, force Pittsburgh to not be able to move methodically down the field, because that's where they struggle.
Yeah, because they can't run the ball, and I'm not expecting them to run the ball again in this one because it's just clearly seems it's a lost cause at this point to hope James Conner puts together a decent performance. I don't think his offensive line helps him in that regard either, but yeah, so maybe they just sit back, say, hey, if you want to go 12 plays on us, good luck. Don't make any mistakes. Because there's, with knowing the Steelers offense, it's very possible that they make 2 or 3 mistakes in this one and keep Cleveland team in it, even though they're undermanned.
Yeah, especially when you have like a Myles Garrett, who I know hasn't really been the same since he's come back from COVID. but he is someone who can get a sack here and there. And the Steelers' offensive line is weird because I feel like they do a better job pass blocking than they can't run block for the life of them. They do okay pass blocking, so they have that. But again, part of it is Ben gets rid of the ball quickly. But one thing I want to bring up as well is in that Indianapolis game, the last time we've really seen Ben, he was taking hits. He was staying in the pocket. He might have to do that in this one as well, and I think that he could.
Yeah. No, I think he can, and he's definitely proven throughout his career he can. But like I said, like with the way this game is, as long as he just makes a few really good throws, I think they'll be fine because I don't think it's going to take a whole lot of points to beat Cleveland right now.
Yeah, we should probably talk about Baker Mayfield. So his game the first time they played was maybe his worst game of the season, and that was kind of everyone who is a Browns hater, looking at me, said that Baker Mayfield, that was just what we hate about Baker Mayfield is when he makes he had a couple of bad interceptions, and that he's played so much better football since then. So I do think this is kind of, going to a house of horrors. This is the ultimate. I feel like Cleveland fans want Pittsburgh. They want this matchup. Mayfield probably wants this matchup. He has this opportunity to really shine in this one, and maybe he can get something, but he's going to have to, more than make big plays, not turn over the football. And that's something that I still do have that concern about with Mayfield.
Yeah, and it's fair to have that concern about him. He did a good job, I thought, week 17. I know it was a depleted Steelers defense, but he did a good job. His numbers don't blow you away, but I thought he just did a good job of making plays when his team really needed it. And that's what they've asked of him all season. They've simplified the game plan for him. Has it been better without OBJ out there? Yeah, I mean, the stats have been better. I don't know if it's because OBJ is not out there. We can get a whole nother discussion about that. But
Right.
He just has made the right throws over and over again with these guys. And, he puts them in a position to win rather than a position to lose now. I think that's all you can ask from him.
Yeah, so I think one last thing is the Browns' running game. I just don't know how successful it can be against the Steelers. Even though the Steelers' run defense isn't what it was because of some injuries, it's still really good. And no team has been able to successfully run, and it's an issue, and it is something that I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. And I guess one more thought. Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski, they love these rollouts. Obviously, Stefanski won't be calling plays, but he can still game plan. And I think that the rollouts, you got to keep it away from TJ Watt. That's something to look out for. Rollouts go away from TJ Watt because they tried a couple of rollouts in his direction the first time they played, and it was a disaster. So I want to see. That's interesting. And maybe for Pittsburgh, you put TJ Watt on the opposite side of where the hash marks are. Give Cleveland less space. There's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah, I think the chess match will be interesting there. And, that's another thing. If they have to try and, adjust their game plan without Stefanski going to be being on that sideline, how much is that affected and how much can they really change going into like halftime, end of quarter, that kind of thing to, keep things interesting, especially as the Steelers counter their offensive moves. I just think there's a lot that going on with this one that, like you said, the Browns are playing with house money. They finally made the playoffs, and they're missing so many guys. No one's expecting anything out of them. And like I said, I think it's too hard to overcome a lot of these misses.
Yes, I see a couple of scores in the chat. The great Eli Mullins says he has the Steelers beating the Browns 33-10. I know Eli will be very much waiting. And then also Chicago Bears fan says the Bills are going to beat the Steelers 100,000-3. So already looking ahead to the next round. Interesting stuff. Any final thoughts on this one?
I wish it was better for Cleveland. I wish that they had these guys finally making a playoff game. But they'll be back. I think this team's here to stay. Just unfortunate look here that they have to go up with undermanned essentially because of COVID.
Yeah, but if you told them before the season, right when you hired Stefanski, hey, Kevin Stefanski is going to be a candidate for Coach of the Year. You're going to win 10 games, make the playoffs, and get knocked out because of injuries and not having your head coach due to COVID. I think you'd say, well, that sucks. COVID's still going on, but other than that, seems pretty good.
Yeah, and 11 wins. Put some respect on the name.
Oh, was it? Oh, right. Yeah, of course, it was 11 wins. 11. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk Ravens Titans. Again, we have revenge on the minds of the Baltimore Ravens. They have lost to Tennessee this year. They also lost to them last year, obviously, when they were 14-2, got stunned. I think that these two teams are very different. I still think this is a bad matchup for Baltimore. And one thing that's interesting about this game, the first time they played, or the time they played this season, you saw that both quarterbacks had bad days. That was Tannehill's one of his worst days up until he played Green Bay. That probably was Lamar Jackson's worst day. They both left a ton of yards and points on the board, and both still scored. I believe it was 23 in regulation. I think it's a bad matchup for Baltimore. You know, I'm high on Baltimore, but I have Tennessee, and I'm only putting 1 point on it because I think it's close.
Yeah, I think it's close too. That's why I'm putting Baltimore by a point. There are some things that are a bad matchup, but I think Baltimore has trended in the right direction the last 4 weeks. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, the Ravens haven't played anyone these last 4 weeks. But it's not necessarily about who they played because, you expect them to win those games. And not even about it being a blowout. I just liked what I've seen out of the offense this year in that they not only are mixing things up with the running game, using more Dobbins and Edwards rather than Mark Ingram, who I felt like was more of a liability at this point. Using more Dobbins than to a lesser extent Edwards, and then also throwing the ball vertically and not being afraid to throw the ball downfield. I feel like they were afraid to take chances earlier in the season. They're taking more shots, and they haven't been afraid of it, and they're going to have to do it again in this one because this Titans pass defense is atrocious. And if they can throw the ball with some consistency and get it downfield, I think the Ravens will win by a lot. I do think they're going to win by a little because I still think the secondary can make some plays. I think that the way they blitz and the way they get after the quarterback, I think that they're going to be able to get to Tannehill a little bit. And yeah, I guess my last point on this is Tennessee. I continue to say it. I can't trust them. I can't trust them in playoff games when you're only good in one of the 3 phases of football. If you're going to stink on defense and stink on special teams, I'm never picking you to win a playoff game. That's just how it's going to be right now. This team has been horrible without Jurrell Casey in that lineup from last season. So I don't like picking Tennessee. I'm not going to pick them right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's no lopsided side of the ball in any of these games than special teams. Baltimore special teams going up against Tennessee special teams. That's a huge advantage. I see Luke Brown in the chat says Titans have literally no defense. And I agree and disagree. Their secondary has been atrocious, and they really get fooled. They get themselves out of position. I don't think their talent is actually that horrible. It's really a positioning thing, which part of that is talent, obviously. But like when they're in the area, they can make plays. They have guys who can have good ball skills. It's more so getting out of position. Here's why I have Tennessee winning. First off, I should mention the score I have. I have Tennessee scoring 34 and Baltimore scoring 31, and I think it's going to be a low possession game. I think there's going to be very few stops in this one. But I think that for Baltimore, if you watch the first time they played, Baltimore had 2 rushes for 10-plus yards. One was for 10, and one was for 11. So they did not get any explosives through the running game, and that's usually what they're able to do. And it's hard to win without explosives. Now, they were able to pass the ball, and I think for Baltimore, despite the fact that typically it feels like what's been good for them is running the ball a lot, I think they're going to have to throw the ball in this game because you have to attack Tennessee's weakness. But I also think for Tennessee, they're kind of saying, hey, if you want to throw the ball, we trust we can stop you once or twice, and then we can get off the field. And, if you just get a few stops, that's all you really need for Tennessee. And when you have that offense, because we can talk about how bad their defense and special teams is all we want. Their offense is incredible. So they have that on the other side.
Yeah, they are elite on that side of the ball, and I think Henry's going to be able to move the pile a little bit in this one. I'm interested to see because they kind of just do their thing, and they're obviously really good on offense, so they don't have to adjust much. I'm curious to see how they manage this game. I'm curious to see if they want to isolate guys like Patrick Queen, who I don't think are as good in coverage, or if they're just going to continue their play action intermediate crossing routes that Corey Davis and A.J. Brown have both been terrific at this season. I do think a guy like Jonnu Smith can be really important in that regard and just getting some underneath routes because I don't think the Ravens linebackers are as good in coverage as their secondary, but they just throw so many bodies at you with the blitz. I could see them just overwhelming Tannehill because we have seen Tannehill, when he's been pressured, struggle more in some of these games, and I could see them getting pressure on him.
Well, but here's the thing, is the first time these two teams played, honestly, this is kind of something I talked about where it seemed like both of these defenses had the same strategy, which is stop the run, which they both actually did pretty well early on. Baltimore gave up a couple big runs to Henry late, but they held him in check for the first 3 quarters of that game for the most part. for Derrick Henry. And so they get these obvious passing situations. But Tennessee actually did better in those situations. Baltimore was constantly giving stuff up. And I think that's just because Tennessee has receivers who can beat man coverage. Baltimore doesn't. Tennessee has, yes, if you want to blitz, well, now great. Now you have, I don't care, Marlon Humphrey's amazing, but now he's covering A.J. Brown one-on-one. Now there's Corey Davis in the mix, Jonnu Smith, as you said. They have so many weapons, and it's hard to beat Tennessee, even if you know they're probably passing the football. So, again, it's a matchup problem on both sides of the ball for Baltimore, and I'm going to be honest, I'm biased. I want Baltimore to win because I love watching Lamar Jackson play, but I'm trying to take biases out of this, and I do think that Tennessee finds a way to win it.
Yeah, I think this is the best matchup of the week. I think this game you could tell me 10 different scenarios at this game, and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
I could see it going either way in this one, and I think it's going to be a really fun matchup to see. I do think if it comes down to throwing the ball, I don't love it for the Ravens. But at the same time, I do think that this is the challenge time for Jackson. I will say it right here. He has to be able to be the guy, because if they limit the run game again, he has to be the guy this time around. We saw it last year. It didn't work out for him. And, he's had these questions about him now since then. Can he get it done in playoff games or when they're down? Can he produce a comeback win? Lamar's got to be able to do it and make throws when he needs to and hit these guys in stride and make good throws.
Yeah, I feel like Tennessee is uniquely built to beat a team like Baltimore, which is weird because there's like only one team like Baltimore. So Baltimore has to be saying, how do we keep getting these guys? Why can't we just get someone else? The one team that's like matched up perfectly against us, we keep playing. I think the Ravens are the better team, but similar to the Colts Bills, I think there's going to be 2 instances where the better team doesn't win because of matchups.
Yeah. No, I can see it. I'm going 26-23 Ravens.
Okay, was that the first? Was that the first score except reversed?
Was it?
It might have been.
Maybe I just had it in my head that way.
It might have been. I think it was something like that. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, all right. Let's move on now. Let's talk about. You know what? Let's talk about the thumbnail game. My Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not going to say my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's the word. But the Buccaneers will be playing the Washington Balls. I got to be honest. I don't understand what everyone is talking about in the media about this is a great matchup for Washington. What a matchup. I have 3 points on Tampa Bay. Kyle, hey, fun fact that no one has ever heard before. This is an interesting tidbit. Tom Brady struggles when you can get pressure with 4.
Yeah, no doubt. I got Tampa Bay with 3 points on this one too. I feel confident in this.
In lockstep.
I'll play devil's advocate first, just because I feel like we need to talk about something interesting, even though it's going to be a 30-point game. So I get it. Okay, Washington has Montez Sweat, who's awesome. Chase Young, who's awesome. Jonathan Bostic Bostic, who's awesome. Jonathan Allen, who's awesome. Go ahead.
Is Chase Young awesome? He's good.
I think he's good.
Yeah, but I mean, his potential is amazing, and what he's able to do as a rookie is amazing. But I feel like he's not Khalil Mack. Like he's not he's not Montez Sweat. Like he's clearly
okay. Let me reiterate.
It's not you. It's again people acting like he's. The same thing happened with Nick Bosa. You have a good rookie season, and Bosa was way better than Young was as a rookie. But Devin White has more sacks than Chase Young. I'm coming off as a hater. But I just feel like his potential isn't overrated, but who he is today is overrated. Yeah,
no, that's fair. I mean, I thought he was really good the last couple weeks of the season.
That's true.
So, like I said, Allen, Bostic, you look at a guy like Ryan Kerrigan might be their 5th best defensive lineman, which is kind of absurd. So I get it. I get what people are looking at, but at the same time, Washington was just playing a team that was trying to lose the game and still barely won. We talk about because Brady's not able to move. Alex Smith literally can't move.
Right.
He literally can't. And Shaq Barrett's going to have a field day. I could see this being ugly early. I don't see any chance because I don't think this offense is going to be able to move the ball. I think it's too tough of a task. Terry McLaurin would have to have an insane game, and I just don't see it happening in this one. I got the Bucs winning this one 35-10.
Yeah, I have. I'm a little closer. I have Bucks 34, balls 20. So I'm a bit, but still a 14-point game. That's a big spread. Yeah, and what I think is, well, let's start with the Bucks offense and Tom Brady attacking this football team defense. I think that there's this narrative that the Buccaneers offensive line hasn't been good this year. It's really not true. They've really struggled at picking up blitzes, but that's not really what Washington does. Washington likes to get pressure with four. They will blitz, but that's not what they specialize in. And I think that's advantage Tampa Bay. As a Buccaneers fan, I feel much more comfortable with a really good defensive line only rushing four than with even a mediocre defensive line who will constantly blitz. I mean, we saw Kansas City was getting pressure all game long because of the blitzes, and I don't think their line is as good as Washington's. But I just think there is ways that you can get pressure, and I just don't know if Washington's going to completely change the way they play, because they also want to play their cover three zone. They want to play their base coverage, but that's not great against Brady either. But if you play man, now even if Mike Evans is out, which is still a question mark, amazingly, he might actually play, which I don't think any of us thought after he went down. But now you got to deal with Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Cameron Brate, Rob Gronkowski, even like Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller. There's just too many weapons. I think offensively they'll be able to score points. What are your thoughts on that? And then we'll flip to the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing people have been looking at too, similar to what I said, Baltimore, that Tampa Bay was playing lights out and looked like the Super Bowl contender we thought they were late in the season. And I think, like Baltimore, a lot of people were looking at it as like, oh, well, they didn't play anybody. But I don't think it's the same. It's the same thing with Baltimore, that I don't think it's necessarily that they beat bad teams. It's that they changed a lot of what they're doing. This team is throwing the ball on first down more, which we have been clamoring since like week 2 that they do. They've been opening up the offense. They're giving Brady mismatches. They're giving him time to look at defenses and, read man or zone and pick them apart. I just love the way that they've moved the ball this last couple of weeks, and I think they're going to be able to light them up. I think that they're going to be able to get a quick passing game going in this one, and I think Antonio Brown's honestly going to have a field day in this. I'm with you. I think Tampa Bay moves the ball up and down the field whenever they want.
Yeah, Moochie Studio says Tristan Wirfs greater than Chase Young. That's just objectively true, right? Who's had a better rookie season, Wirfs or Young? It's just who's better, Donovan Smith or Chase Young? Well, that's when it gets a little hairy. So that's where you can have some success. But Tampa Bay's done also a better job at for Tampa Bay, the strategy. Chip Montez Sweat all game, or chip to your left wherever. Don't worry about if it's Young or Sweat. Chip to the left, help Smith out, and hope that Wirfs can hold his own. And if not, then, don't be afraid to add extra protection because you have the advantage downfield.
Yeah, and I think we'll see a lot of Leonard Fournette in this one because I think he is the best pass blocking running back. So I think we're going to see him on the field a lot and being able to help out in that way. And they're probably going to throw him a lot that way towards Sweat to try and make, just keep him off Brady as long as he can so that he can make throws. And like I said, I just think that they're going to be able to get open, especially if Washington isn't able to get there quickly.
Yeah, and then let's flip to the other side. I do think that I think for Washington, the way to win this game is you got to get some splash plays on offense. You got to throw the ball deep down the field, which is so much not what Alex Smith likes to do. I mean, he's captain check down. That's been his MO for, always. So I think that's the way we've seen Tampa Bay have trouble in man coverage. We have. The reason why they play so much man is because they can't play zone for the life of them. And that's what maybe you have to do for Washington. Run the ball. If they can run the ball well, which they might be able to do, I don't know how much confidence I have in that because Tampa Bay's run defense has been really up and down. They're much better with Shaq Barrett, who wasn't there last week, so I think that could help. Obviously, losing Vita Vea, they're just a different team without him. But I think that, run the ball, force them to play some zone, and then when they do play zone, take advantage with play actions. And like you said, Terry McLaurin's going to have to be the guy. And that's maybe one other advantage. If it is man coverage, you just hope that Terry McLaurin can win one-on-one matchups. Tampa Bay should double him, but they should have doubled Tyreek Hill. They didn't do that. So you could see that scenario where Tampa Bay says, well, we can trust maybe a banged-up Carlton Davis who knows if he'll play. But if he does, maybe they'll put him on McLaurin one-on-one. That's a matchup I would like for Washington. But they're going to have to get chunk plays to do it, I think.
Yeah, and I just, is this a better matchup for Taylor Heinicke? In the 19 plays that we've seen him drop back to pass.
Yeah, I just don't know. It's one of those. It's sort of like the Jalen Hurts versus Wentz thing before Hurts had played, where it was like it's nearly impossible to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was just looking at it. Alex Smith, 6 yards per attempt. You know,
Yeah,
it's just like I don't know how this. I don't see
he
how
keeps
anybody
winning.
sees.
His
What's that?
win-loss record is incredible. It's the
Yeah,
most baffling thing where it's like he'll play on these teams, throw for 150 yards in a game, and they're like, and they win, and then they lose him. Maybe it just says, maybe it really, now I'm thinking about it, it might just be a stat more about Dwayne Haskins than about Alex Smith. That might really be what the stat is.
yeah. No, I do think that's probably true. So
Mhm.
I just don't see it. Like I said, Eagles were trying to lose last week and they barely won. And I just don't see it happening. I don't think that they're going to be able to get the big plays that you talked about, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to move the ball much at all in this one. I know Tampa Bay is missing; they've missed Vita Vea for a lot of the season, and I know that they're missing Devin White in this one.
All right.
I just don't think this is the week that it matters to them.
Yeah, and also one last bad matchup for Washington. They don't pick up the blitz well, and Tampa Bay,
Top Bulls blitzes a little bit.
yeah, exactly. Todd Bowles blitzed in the Hail, and everyone made fun of Greg Williams for blitzing in the Hail Mary, and it's like the Todd Bowles like looking off to the side meme when he did it against Aaron Rodgers in the divisional round. Like that wasn't quite a cover zero, but they love the blitz. Washington's going to have trouble. There is a chance any given Sunday, but these people acting like this is going to be a close game. This should be a blowout, but who knows?
Yeah, maybe things get weird, but I just don't see it. I think Tampa Bay is clearly the better team. And we talked about it all year that the NFC East was pretty much, the 5 seed was so important because you're basically getting a free win. Now all of a sudden we're ready to talk about a Washington team beating them. I just don't see it happening.
Right. The only way maybe is if I made this point in my video, but I didn't make it very well. If we've seen Brady just sort of whiff on some throws, and if Washington can limit the possessions and Brady just has a bad day, that's maybe the one hope. But there's such a small chance of it happening. Tampa Bay, 8.5-point favorites, and I think I'm not going to bet on this game because I make a habit to not bet on Bucks games, but I would bet on Tampa Bay even with the nearly 9-point spread.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, I think it's 35-10. I think it's a blowout.
Yeah. All right. Okay. 2 games left. We're, I think, making good time, doing about right where we want. So Rams, Seahawks, and Bears, Saints. Which one do you want to go with?
Let's talk Bears.
Okay. The good football team that is the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. The football team that is the Chicago Bears. I know we just talked about the football team.
Yeah, different.
But this is another football team, the Chicago Bears.
Right. So I have New Orleans winning this, shocker, and I'm going to put 2 points on it. And that's all I have left.
What about the last game?
Well, I have 1 point for the last game.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're right in line with this one again. I think so. We match up perfectly with the NFC games. I got New Orleans in 1 point or 2 points. Sorry. I see some things not working in New Orleans' favor. Michael Thomas hasn't played. He's basically played 3 full weeks this season, maybe 4. So, coming into the playoffs after barely playing a season, that could be rough. Alvin Kamara is basically going to play this game cold turkey because he's not going to practice all week before he's activated. So maybe the Saints struggle that way, but at the same time, when they played the last time and it went to overtime, the Bears struggled to stop Kamara. And I think a lot of it too was I thought they were at their best in that game when they kind of let Nick Foles be Nick Foles, one of the rare times they actually did. And they just let him run kind of no huddle and quick passing game. If they're able to do that again in this one and Nick Foles they're not going to do the same thing though with Mitch Trubisky. That was the point I was trying to make. They're not going to do the same thing with Mitch Trubisky because he's not Nick Foles and he doesn't have that skill set. And I just don't see it happening. The Saints defense was awesome the last week of the season. I see them continuing in this one. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout because I don't think the Saints are going to blow anybody out right now that are, at least a playoff team. So I got the Saints winning this one 21-13.
One interesting thing about this game is where it's played. Because the last time it was played in Soldier Field, and while everyone likes to talk about, home field hold home field advantage. How much does it matter with COVID? But it clearly had a difference where New Orleans really struggled with, I think, it was heavy wind the first time these two teams played, and New Orleans struggled with that. Now they're in a dome, which is where Drew Brees likes to play, so that's a huge advantage for him and for them, who like to throw the ball more than Chicago does. I think that, like you said, Kamara, that's definitely it's an X factor, because who knows if he's if he doesn't play, that's a big deal. But if he does, then they're good. And I don't know if they'll even want him to play too, because I believe, if I understand correctly, if the quarantine goes well, he can be out of quarantine basically the day of the game. But do you want someone who hasn't played in 10 days, who's going to be completely cold, to get a large number of snaps? I don't know. So yeah, like you said, like that's a huge deal. Also, out. I think that one interesting thing is I watched that game again, and that was probably the worst game the Saints defense played all season. Not in terms of how much points they give up, but just in terms of like giving up that many points to Chicago. You got to double Allen Robinson. Don't leave Lattimore on an island with Robinson, because Robinson really he got the better of Lattimore in that one.
Yeah, and everybody besides Mike Evans seemingly gets the better of Lattimore.
That's true.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's fair. It's a fair burn.
Yeah, so I mean, and the thing is too is you look at guys like, you look at Robinson, you look at Montgomery too. Who else is Chicago going to when it really matters? Jimmy Graham. Are you going to trust Jimmy Graham in this one? I'd be fine isolating Jimmy Graham. I would. I think the Saints are going to be just fine being able to if they slow Robinson down. I don't see any chance for Chicago to move the ball in this one. And we talk about this Bears defense. I don't think that they've looked quite the same the last few weeks of the season. I thought they got beat up a little bit. They gave up some points. Again, I know they play, the Packers are obviously the Packers, but even like the Lions, they were giving up some points, giving up some yards. This defense hasn't looked the same the last few weeks of the season.
Let me try to play devil's advocate here. One thing that I'm interested in is we saw last year when New Orleans got stunned against Minnesota, is the pressure, and pressure came quickly. And I think that part of it with Drew Brees is the kind of guy where he's used to not having pressure, because you have Terron Armstead on one side and Ryan Ramczyk on the other. Now that Khalil Mack is there, he can beat those guys, and that could potentially create some surprise sacks. And I said this in my video that I can't remember if I did post it. I've said this where I feel like there's something to be said for when someone doesn't get sacked too often. I feel like when they do get sacked or they do get hit, they're more likely to fumble. I have no evidence to back that up. It just seems like it makes sense to me. And I do feel like if Brees gets surprised by Mack, you could get a turnover there, and that could go a long way.
Yeah. And not to mention, if Taysom Hill comes into the game, he's putting the ball on the ground. I guarantee it.
Yeah. He doesn't have to get touched. He'll just drop it.
Yeah, he'll just drop it on the ground. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting matchup. I think that this will be closer than people think. This is another one that I think is going to be pretty close, but I just think the Saints are a better team right now. I don't see the Bears moving the ball. I'll say it again. I just don't see them moving the ball on this one. I think the Saints have found their groove on defense.
I found it interesting. So I bet Chicago plus 9.5. I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll cover. One thing that I think is another interesting little factor, little wrinkle in this, is we saw the New Orleans Saints give up a little bit quarterback runs against Philadelphia. We saw Jalen Hurts have some success. Could you see Mitchell Trubisky doing that, even though admittedly I don't think Chicago's offensive line is as good at blocking for those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I could see him doing a lot of things pretty well, but I just don't think that he's equipped to beat this team. I just don't think he's equipped to beat this team with the way he plays. I just think that New Orleans is too sound, and I think that they're going to be able to shut down his receivers, and I don't think he's good enough to make enough tight throws. That's the only way I really see them being able to do it, and I just don't see him making those kind of throws.
How many wins does Chicago have to win to keep for Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky to keep their jobs?
I mean, if they win this, they probably keep it, right?
You think so? I think there's an opportunity. I think there's a chance. I think that's like maybe either way. I could see them still getting fired. We saw in Tennessee when they won a playoff game against Kansas City, their head coach still got fired. So it's not unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they look bad in this one, I could see it happening. I think I don't know.
I think if they look bad in it, they're definitely gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting. I mean, It's a tough spot because they're behind on the coaching carousel, so maybe they try and give it another year. But I mean, if you're looking for a coach, Pat Fitzgerald has basically said he wants the job already. But that's besides the point. Yeah, I mean, I think that they, I do think that if they lose this, they're probably gone. But
Here's what I think: lose this, they're gone. Win a game, maybe, and then if they win 2 games, I think they're safe.
that's fair.
If
Although I don't see
they
them winning 2 games, so I guess
Yeah.
you're probably thinking they're probably gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they make it to the NFC, you can't fire them for making it to the NFC Championship game, I don't think. But maybe, who knows? We've seen stranger things. Yeah, so any final thoughts on this one?
No, I think we just about covered this one.
All right. I thought you were going somewhere else afterwards.
Oh no, let's move on.
Yes, all right. Rams Seahawks. This one should be fun. Rams Seahawks part 3. One of the areas I have some confusion on is just who's going to be playing quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. I believe as of right now, it has not been announced. Will it be Jared Goff or Johnny Wolf? I don't know. It's concerning. I do think that Jared Goff is. I think there's been this just incredibly asinine narrative that's come up of maybe the Wolf man could be a better quarterback than Jared Goff. I just don't see it. I actually think that's going to be the difference. I say that if Jared Goff plays, I think the Rams win. If he doesn't, then I think Seattle wins. But I think that there's a better chance that he doesn't than he does. So I'm going to pick Seattle, only putting 1 point. I think this game is closer than people realize.
Yeah, I'm putting 1.2. I got the Seahawks as well. Actually, you know what? I'm going to flip it. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to flip it because I need to come back. So I can't agree with you on this. So I'm going Rams with the upset, simply to make a comeback here. But here's my argument. The 2 times these 2 teams have played, it's been ugly. They both been really low-scoring game. The first game was 23-16. The second one was 20-9. I think right now that caters to the Rams because with John Wolford in there, I don't think that they're going to be able to light it up, obviously. And if this game stays low-scoring again, it gives them a chance. I think their plan is to use this defense as the best defense in football, make this game ugly as possible, and, maybe in the last possession of the game, hey, we got a shot. Whether, I know Wolford's back there. He just needs to put one drive together, though. So let's see what happens. So I think that's going to be the game plan that they have, and I think that they can do it because this defense is so good. I was really impressed with Jalen Ramsey last week against DeAndre Hopkins. And with the way he's played and the way I think DK Metcalf has kind of regressed the last few weeks, I do think that he's going to be able to eat up DK Metcalf a little bit in this one and slow him down. So then the rest of the defense can worry about Tyler Lockett because he's the next biggest threat. I think this Rams defense is equipped to slow down the Seahawks. I think this Rams defense is going to create a few turnovers. And I think that's going to be the difference because we've seen the couple games that Seattle has lost this season. And a lot of it has come down to Russell Wilson making mistakes. The last time they played, or the time the Rams won that game, Russell Wilson had 2 interceptions. He had 3 interceptions in that loss to the Seahawks. I do think that if they make this game ugly, get a couple turnovers for Wilson, that's how they win this game. And I think that they have a shot to do it.
But you mean the loss to the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said Seahawks.
Sorry, the Cardinals, yes.
Right, gotcha. I was just making sure. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff. I don't think I've ever seen more hype around a quarterback who has never played good football in the NFL than Johnny Wolf, who I like because of his name and because I can make fun nicknames for him. But That's a Toilet says John Wolford is the next Kurt Warner. I don't know how serious he's being, but this is totally a thing I've seen.
How did anybody see that in their last game?
yeah, exactly. It was at best it was fine. That was where he was at. But what I find interesting about this game is it's for the Rams. There is openings, and I think the Seattle defense maybe has gotten a bit overrated now. You can throw through them. They played. They're a team that plays a base coverage. They like to play cover 3 zone, and you can design ways to get guys open. There was a lot of openings that they just weren't able to get, and some of it was on Goff. It wasn't all on Goff. And there was one play where there was a blown coverage that would have been a touchdown in week 16, but there was immediate pressure. And that's just kind of luck where the pressure that happened to happen was, on a play that there was a blown coverage. If it happens on a different play, they probably get a touchdown out of it. So there are openings there. And on the flip side, the Rams don't give up hardly anything. You basically have to make these perfect throws to beat the Rams defense. But the thing is, what do you trust more, Russell Wilson to have a great day or John Wolford to have a good day? I think I trust Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and there is a chance that the Seahawks offense figures it out and is able to get like 35 in this one. But at the same time, I just trust this Rams defense right now to make plays. And, I'll defend Wolford real quick. I thought he was, like
The
you said,
Wolfman?
I think it was fine. I thought he did pretty good, maybe pretty good
He-
after that first
after a
pick.
bad
I think
first
he
quarter.
settled down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he settled down after the first quarter, did better. And not to mention, if he has to play in this one, he didn't have Cooper Kupp. I think that's the most important player in this Rams offense because of his ability to just get open. He had 5 catches in the first game that they won. In the game they lost, he had 8 catches on 9 targets. He is so important to this offense just because he's consistently open when he runs routes. So I think having him out there is going to be huge for him. And then if Goff plays, like I said, the game that they won, Goff looked really good. He was 27 to 37, over 300 yards in that game, really moved the ball. He had over 8.2 yards per attempt. I think he's going to be able to do, if he is able to play, he could do something like that. And if Wolford has to play, we'll see. But at the same time, I'm just relying on this defense to basically do the heavy lifting, and Wolford has to make 2 or 3 throws.
Yeah. And I mean, they can win with Wolford. They absolutely can. And again, like I said, Seattle will give you stuff. They'll give you throwing lanes. But one of the issues is Wolford can't turn the ball over. And I do feel like I think there's a better chance. Again, he's another one of those guys. I feel like there's a better chance he turns the ball over multiple times than he doesn't turn the ball over at all.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. And I think Jamal Adams will be interesting in this one because he's a defensive lineman in a safety's body, and he could just wreak havoc on Wolford in the backfield. If that happens, then this could look ugly pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that I trust the Rams defense. It'll be interesting. Part of it will be don't turn the ball over. I think this should be a fun game. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. I think that it will be very different than the first two, maybe because it's weird. Russell Wilson had maybe one of his worst days against the Rams, and then Jared Goff had one of his worst days against Seattle. So if both of these teams have like solid quarterback play, I guess if they both had solid quarterback play, then the Rams would win. But if they both, this could easily come down to the wire. And given it's a Seattle playoff game, that's very in line with what they do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, Seattle can't have a normal game. For all this talk about home field advantage, once again, I believe the Seahawks were 7-1 at home this season. So they continue to just have a complete fortress up there in Seattle. So maybe that plays a factor into it. But like I said, I think this game is ugly. I think this game, the Rams defense is not going to make this one fun to watch at times for people who don't like defensive football. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to have a shot to win it. And I think they win it 23-20.
Yeah, I also think if Jared Goff plays, whichever quarterback loses is going to get a ton of blame. I think that if Russell, because again, we talked about if Russell Wilson only scores 17 points and they lose, everyone's going to say Russell Wilson, what an awful day. But it's the Rams. That's what they do to people.
Yeah, no, I mean this defense is insane. I think they're really good, and I think that they're going to have a good time.
Yeah, I agree. Should be interesting. Should be a fun one. All right. Any final thoughts on this one?
What was your final score?
I had so I had 2 final scores. If Goff plays, I have Rams 24-20, but I think that it looks like he won't, so I'm going to have Seahawks 20-17. What was your final score?
23-20 Rams.
Okay, so we're both right around the same. That feels about right. Also, I believe Eli Mullen or 20-23. So we got that going.
I think he's reacting to me, I guess.
I think you reacted to him.
No, I said it first.
Oh,
he copied me. Yeah.
I thought you copied him. I'm taking Eli's side on this one.
No, I was there first.
Debatable. There's no way we can rewatch it and figure it out, so we'll have to just assume that Eli is right.
Okay, fair.
Okay. All right. Well, that's our show. I like how we always end it on just the weird notes like that.
Yeah, that's what we do. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed the show mainly though, and liked our picks. If you didn't like our picks, well, I'm sorry. To pick against your team. It's going to be a fun weekend. Tell your wives, girlfriends, or moms, I'm sorry. You're sorry for the weekend because you're busy. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah. This is definitely the this is the weekend where you have to try to figure out ways to say like, oh, you know, some excuse to stay home all day.
Yeah, exactly. 6 games over 2 days. It's going to be fun. I'll be in
Super
Vegas
wild card
watching it
weekend.
on TV, so that'll be good.
Can we talk about Super Wildcard Weekend? The
Is that what
name?
they're calling it now?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's a real. That wasn't a joke. That's what this has been branded as.
Huh. I don't know what that means, but okay.
I guess it's because there's extra games, but it would make sense if this is like maybe a one-off thing. We're doing this forever. Are we just it's just always Super Wildcard Weekend from now on out?
I guess so. They needed something more to advertise it with, so that's fun. And not to mention, we didn't talk about the Bears in New Orleans, the Nickelodeon game.
Yeah, right. I'm looking forward to that actually a lot. You know, I love when the NFL gets done with it, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided. Why didn't they save that Jets Broncos Thursday night game for Nickelodeon? Why did they have to do this
that'd be
playoff
good.
game?
It's been just imagining someone like going absolutely crazy while there's like slime on the screen. You know,
Brett Rippon getting slimed in the face.
Imagine like a Minneapolis Miracle and just SpongeBob on the screen, looks like laughing or whatever.
Yeah, I would love to see like I hope they do like a Gatorade slime and just like dump it all over Trubisky if they win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something. There's a lot of ways you can go with that. I don't think Trubisky will have to worry about that. I think that's probably going to go a certain way.
Yeah, I think so. But that's the person who needs to be slimed the most is Trubisky.
Yeah. All right. So that's our show. Everyone, thanks for checking it out. The game to watch, if you're a Kyle fan, you want the Bills to win. If you're a Jackson fan, you want the Colts to win because you have 3 points on that. I have 1. That's the big one.
Yeah. And if you're a Kyle fan, also the Rams. So I hope we have fans. I hope there's a lot of Team Kyle people out there.
Yeah. I like to think that there's people that like are like huge fans of one of us and hate the other one. Like, Jackson says it again. Like, just fast forwards when I'm talking and only listens to when you talk.
Well, the Raiders fans definitely don't like me, so they're definitely Team Jackson.
They're Team Jackson. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on, or let's end the show. Thanks to everyone for watching. We appreciate it. Kyle, do you have anything to plug?
Our Twitter account. Make sure to follow us. Yeah. That's at I got to look it up again because I'm bad at this. At On the Sideline JK. On the Sideline JK. Make sure to follow us there. We occasionally have good content on there, and yeah, it's enjoyable. It's probably the most entertaining thing on Twitter right now because there's nothing entertaining on Twitter right now. So yeah, make sure to follow us there.
Yeah, exactly. It's all, Twitter is just all the political news, and then just like the dumb meme that you post on Twitter about an NFL game.
Yeah, pretty much that. And you know, if you want to get away from your Kim and Kanye conversation, make sure to follow us there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Thanks to everyone for watching. We appreciate it. And we'll see you Sunday at midnight, same time as always. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, have a good one.
Peace.